A very good afternoon to you, Kristal, and thank you so much for your time. So, of course, we've seen the impact of the pandemic on businesses, but what kind of impact has it had and can it have on the youth in the near future?
So we know that even before COVID, there were over 8 million young people who were not in education or employment. And then the pandemic hit. And what we've seen from the research that's been done is that young people of color, women, they were the most hard hit by the job losses that resulted from the lockdown. And so as we look forward to economic recovery and bearing in mind the state of the economy, we really have to put the young people and employment of young people at the center of any plans. There've been a plethora of interventions around youth unemployment over the past number of years, but we at Youth Capital have come up with an action plan that we think is holistic and addresses all of the challenges that young people face. And we're saying that all stakeholders should really get around a focused agenda for shifting gears on youth unemployment.
Job creation is obviously necessary, but under current climate, as you yourself have pointed to, it's proving difficult. So what other avenues can be explored?
So if we look at some things that were raised at SONA this year, the President mentioned lots of money being put into the direction of manufacturing infrastructure. And we're saying there are young people who are qualified, but are actually not certified because of backlogs at the CETAs, at the TVETs. And so we think, as we think about youth unemployment as this overwhelming crisis that we need to address, there are low-hanging fruit that we can look at. Another one is public works employment plan. So we know that as part of the President's stimulus package, a number of teaching assistant positions were created for young people. So money's been put aside. Young people have been put into these positions. What will make the difference is if these positions are stepping stones into young people's next opportunities. They must get training on the job. They must get reference letters when they leave, so that these short-term opportunities, which the government is funding, open up doors, future learning and earning opportunities for young people.
A lot can be blamed on COVID-19, especially when taking into account this 1.7% rise in youth unemployment. But this is a problem that this country faces annually, and as you mentioned at the beginning, that it's something that's been happening before COVID, and it's most likely something that will continue happening post-COVID, no?
Absolutely. So I think government's always thought of youth unemployment as kind of this thorn in the side of government for years, and we keep throwing money at the problem, and yet we don't see things shifting. And at Youth Capital, we really think it's because people haven't come around a shared agenda and understanding that the complexities that young people face are diverse, from what the struggles they face in school all the way through to finding a job and keeping a job and remaining in a job and having the right skills for the job. It is a complex issue, but what really needs to happen is we need to look at the policies we have in place and think about how do we implement them more effectively and listen to young people. A lot of top-down policies haven't worked because they haven't taken into account what it's like on the ground for a young person to navigate these opportunities. If we look at the Second Chance Matric program, for example, the route for application and the information around registration is really complicated, and it's difficult for young people to navigate. As a simple example, so just making communication with young people more streamlined, communicating with young people where they are on Facebook and social media and WhatsApp. These are, again, low-hanging fruits, lessons we can learn from COVID about how to use these tools for mass communication that could unlock opportunities for young people.
Just before I let you go quickly, Kristal, you mentioned that you say at least that listen to young people. So perhaps could one of the solutions not be government introducing young minds, in the cabinet, perhaps, for example, that there's just not enough young people as part of government and as part of the decision-making and policy-making of this country?
Absolutely. You'll hear young people say all the time, you have a youth desk in my community and there's a 40-year-old woman who sits there. What does she know about what it's like to be a young person in 2021 in South Africa? Currently, there are calls out for the NYDA board, and they've actually put in a clause in the amendment bill saying that they want only people between the ages of 18 and 35 on that board. And, at Youth Capital, we're saying to youth development organizations, put forward strong leaders from your organization who are young people who understand the reality and the complexities of being a young person in Africa to sit on that board. And as you say, in Parliament as well, we definitely need more young voices and young voices that really represent South Africans across the board. We are a diverse nation. But young people have been missing from the conversation for far too long.
Yeah.
And Youth Capital really tries to engage with young people and give them a space for their voices to be heard. And I think having their voices in Parliament would be the ultimate win for Youth Capital.
Kristal, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That is Kristal Duncan-Williams. She's the project lead at Youth Capital.